In the news tonight,
that we will be pursuing all constitutional and legal options available to us.
Raila Odinga, Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate in the just concluded general elections in Kenya, has rejected the outcome that gave victory to William Ruto.
The IT manager is earning 36 million.
MPs shocked by the salary scale of the loss-making Uganda Airlines, where the CEO earns 87 million shillings. Government has ordered individuals and organizations that fraudulently acquired Asian properties after their expulsion by then-President Idi Amin to return them. And in sports, Uganda is performing relatively well at the 2022 Islamic Solidarity Games that come to an end on Thursday in Turkey. A very good evening to you and welcome to CTV PM Edition with me, Melissa Mboha, and Isaac Luchamuzi on Sign Language. We start off from Kenya, where Kenya's opposition leader and Azimio la Umoja candidate Raila Odinga has vowed to challenge the results of the close presidential election with all legal and constitutional options after the deputy president and Kenya Kwanza candidate William Ruto was declared the winner of the election by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Take a look.
Azimio la Umoja candidate Raila Odinga was flanked by his running mate Martha Karua and renowned opposition leader Kalonzo Musyoka this afternoon addressed the nation and the world at large, and without wasting any time, he outrightly dismissed the results of the Kenya presidential election that were announced yesterday by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati.
Ruto William Samoei, number of valid votes 7,176,141. This represents 50.49%.
According to Odinga, the declaration was a travesty and blatant disregard of the Constitution of Kenya.
Our view in Azimio is clear. I repeat, the figures announced by Mr. Chebukati are null and void and must be quashed by a court of law.
Odinga, who spoke out for the first time since the announcement at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, also accused the IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati of having no legal authority to make individual decisions and announcements that will impact the country.
Barely 2 hours before his announcement, Mr. Chebukati called a meeting of the IEBC and revealed to them the different results he was going to announce. 4 of the 7 protested Mr. Chebukati's actions. But Mr. Chebukati, whose mind appeared made up, did not entertain any discussion of the results, precipitating a walkout by a majority of the commissioners, who promptly denounced the results at a press conference.
Raila Odinga also revealed that the figures announced by Chebukati were null and void, and that he will challenge the matter with all legal and constitutional avenues.
Today, I do not want to fully address our strategies going forward, but suffice it to note that we will be pursuing all constitutional and legal options available to us. We will do so because we regard the many flaws in the elections and the wrongs committed by the IEBC as fatal to the process and the outcome announced by Mr. Chebukati.
The Azimio la Umoja candidate also urged his supporters to remain calm as they await the decision of court.
I want to commend our supporters for remaining calm and keeping the peace, and I urge them to continue to do so.
This is the 5th time Raila Odinga has run for the president of Kenya, having run in 1997, 2007, 2013 and 2017. Odinga, who also served as Prime Minister of Kenya, leader of opposition since 2013, has also accused the government of Kenya of rigging the election the previous times. Yesterday, the Independent Boundaries and Electoral Commission of Kenya declared Raila Odinga's opponent William Ruto the winner of the election, with 50.49% of Odinga's 48.85% in what seemed to be a very close election. Sohail Mugabe, CTV, PM edition.
Parliament, led by the Deputy Speaker, Thomas Tayebwa, has commended Kenya for holding peaceful elections. The MPs also requested for a special moment to discuss lessons learned from the elections held in the neighboring country. The details.
In his opening remarks, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Thomas Tayebwa, congratulated Kenyans and the newly elected President William Ruto upon a successful election. Ruto was declared yesterday as the 5th President of Kenya following last week's elections.
And I was very happy with the remarks of the President when he said that it is a win for Kenya and everyone would be included in the government in the extended amendment plan. So we pray that that was the message which they will come so that peace can prevail.
The legislators were in awe of seeing an election being organized and held without any form of violence.
They channeled all the results from 34A, that is polling station, to a public portal, unlike in the neighboring countries, including ours. Mr. Speaker, the institutions that caught my eye during the Kenya elections, right honorable Speaker, were the key institutions, especially the army. Despite the fact that the army was deployed, right honorable Speaker, on the streets, they were not kidnapping the people. They were not doing the things that we witnessed here.
So, right honorable Speaker, this particular time, the number of women rose from 4 from the 2017 election to 7, and the women who were elected who directly competed with men were 22. And this we need to appreciate, that slowly Kenya is appreciating the issue of having women in leadership.
They hope Uganda's Electoral Commission will pick a leaf from Kenya.
The electronic transfer of results by way of scanning. Here, people tend to type results into the computer. In Kenya, we saw scanning. They would scan the DR forms as raw as they are at the polling stations. And these results are sent to a national portal, which can be accessed by any citizen. And whoever wants to do another tally, a secondary tally, does it against what is sent to the national portal. It's a very good system that we do not have here.
They, however, note there are some instances that must be addressed as Uganda tries to copy from its neighbors.
The chairperson of the equivalent of the Electoral Commission went on to declare the winner, even when 4 of the 7 commissioners were in disagreement with what was to be declared. So that is a big weakness. And I pray that even when they go to court, that the ruling from the Supreme Court in their country should be to the effect of strengthening the commissioners on the commission. Otherwise, had these commissioners been listened into, perhaps results wouldn't have been declared prematurely.
Raila Odinga, who has been contesting for the 5th time, has since refuted the outcome of the elections and vowed to seek redress from court. Ramson Muhire, CTV Edition.
Thank you, Ramson, for that report. Moving on, political commentators have continued to heap praises on the outcome of last week's general elections in Kenya, terming it as a clear demonstration of the giant strides Kenya has made towards meaningful multi-party democracy. Dr. Samuel Kazibwe, a political analyst, says that the chaos and drama that emerged just before the declaration of presidential results and the dissenting voices of 4 commissioners has no substantive weight to deprive Kenya of its leading position when it comes to democratic governance in the region. The details.
The declaration of William Ruto as the overall winner by the IEBC in the hotly contested presidential elections in Kenya yesterday has attracted mixed reactions. This comes less than a day after the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission confirmed William Ruto to have won the race to become the 5th president of Kenya.
Ruto William Samoei. Number of valid votes, 7,176,141. This represents 50.49%.
But 4 election commissioners said on they could not support what they call the opaque vote count before the chairperson of the electoral body, Wafula Chebukati, announced the final results. According to Kaziwe, a political analyst, not even this saga can challenge Kenya's democratic credentials.
So what we have seen is a clear demonstration of the achievements Kenya has attained in its multi-party democracy.
The dissent of the IEBC officials raises questions about what will happen next. However, Kaziwe says it's hard to rule this out since the country's constitution allows Kenyans to challenge the results in case of dissatisfaction.
We need to wait for 7 days. If 7 days elapse without anybody going to court, Ruto would be sworn in on 30th of August. But if in these 7 days, any Kenyan goes to court, the equation would certainly be different.
Given the geopolitics in Kenya, some analysts say that the fact that even the margin at which Ruto won the hotly contested race, the future of the country's politics could be at stake. Kaziwe says what happens illuminates Kenya's achievements in democratic governance and beyond.
I think what has transpired in Kenya graphically illuminates Kenya's democratic credentials and achievements. You had an election where 4 commissioners dissented, but none of them has been arrested. You had an election where the incumbent supported the loser, but the chair of the Electoral Commission went ahead and announced the winner.
According to the Chebukati declared results, Ruto won the tight race with a narrow, where he received 50.49% of the vote, while Odinga received 48.85%. Tony Patila Humza, CTV, PM edition.
Kenya is a sin of crime.
The chairperson of the Committee on Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises, Joel Senyonyi, also Nakawa West MP, has directed the management of Uganda Airlines to set up a staff salary structure that is approved by the board. The structure has to be approved within a month. The details.
The Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development recently released a tax expenditure report covering 2020 and 2021, indicating that over 5 trillion of tax revenue was lost to various tax incentives and holidays to maintain foreign investors. A joint report by Siatini and the USAID has highlighted shortcomings in the manner the tax expenditure report by the Ministry of Finance is structured, saying it does not clearly highlight government's gains for the revenue foregone and who benefits, and whether such an outcome has any return to investment to Uganda.
There should be thresholds set in terms of the maximum amount of money that can be foregone through tax expenditures in a particular year, the kind of sectors that should be benefiting, having a cost-benefit analysis as from the expenditures that from the revenue.
The right hand.
This arose after the Auditor General's report of 2020-2021 showing how the staff of Uganda Airlines were earning huge monthly salaries from a loss-making national carrier. The report also indicated that the salaries are given to staff members without any human resource manual to follow.
Which kind of staff does Uganda Airlines need? Where can these people be sourced from? How much is good enough for them to be paid to do a good job? Because now people are angry about the salaries and so on because they are wondering, is there a value for money?
According to the report, the Chief Executive Officer of Uganda Airlines earns 87 million, pilots 80 million, managers earn between 30 and 50 million, cabin crew staff earn between 15 to 30 million, yet the company incurred a loss of 164 billion last year.
So the Chief Executive Officer earns 87 million. The Chief Financial Officer 73 million. Managers, the financial manager earns 58 million, but then there are other managers. The IT manager, for example, earns 36 million. I don't know what the disparity is. Managers at the same level. One is earning 43 million, that's human resource manager, 43.9 million. The IT manager is earning 36 million.
MPs also expressed shock after learning about salary disparities in a management position and directed management to submit the overall salary scale of staff members tomorrow when they reappear before the committee.
You're making losses of 164 billion, and then there's this salary structure, and I want our employees, to be paid well, but I'm just wondering, are we balancing all these issues? Because you're not earning this money, you're operating at a loss of 164 billion shillings as of the last financial year. How are we balancing this equation? Are we cutting our coat according to the amount of cloth that we have?
You're speaking, the human resource audit would have even been done earlier before even employing other people. That one was very important. The HR is supposed to advise the board if those people are so relevant, if they are supposed even to earn, he or she is supposed to participate.
On the salary structure that you've put in line with the people you're paying for their service, because we are seeing the discrepancies vis-a-vis the money that the airline is getting, and you're also working at a loss. Do you intend to revise the salary structure, or you will continue paying yourself the way you're doing now and continue getting lost under the expense of Uganda taxpayers' money?
In the same meeting, the committee found out that the current CEO of Uganda Airlines, Jennifer Bamturachi, was appointed without following the recruitment process. The acting chairperson board of director, Uganda Airlines Herbert Kamuntu, confessed to have cleared Bamturaki's appointment because he was acting upon the instruction from the Minister of Works, Transport and Communication, General Katumba Wamala, who was also reportedly directed by President Museveni.
This process had been started at the time we came into the board. And then within a month or so, that process had been concluded and identified a consultant, PwC, and went ahead to advertise after JDs were prepared. In the middle of that process, that's when the directive came that we should appoint Ms. Bamturaki as the CEO.
The day I was going to apply, I was appointed.
Oh, wow.
Kamuntu said that the time of directive, the board had hired a private recruitment company at 98 million to carry out the recruitment of the CEO, and they were now in negotiation to reduce the costs. It's from this that the chairperson of the committee, Joyce Sonyonyi, ordered Bamturaki to submit her qualifications to the committee by tomorrow when he returns to answer audit queries.
Forget your appointment later, madam. The job description and the CV. Can we have the CVs of all those 10?
Sarah Nakandi for CTV PM Edition.
In order to boost economic growth that would lead to the creation of employment, government formulated laws to provide incentives to investors in form of tax holidays, subsidies, low interest on loans and free land, among others. Despite these incentives, the government has not seen much attained as far as uplifting Uganda from unemployment is concerned. Adams Mayambala tells us more.
The Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development recently released a tax expenditure report covering 2020 and 2021, indicating that over 5 trillion of tax revenue was lost to various tax incentives and holidays to maintain foreign investors. A joint report by Siatini and the USAID has highlighted shortcomings in the manner the tax expenditure report by the Ministry of Finance is structured, saying it does not clearly highlight government's gains for the revenue foregone and who benefits, and whether such an outcome has any return to investment to Uganda.
There should be thresholds set in terms of the maximum amount of money that can be foregone through tax expenditures in a particular year, the kind of sectors that should be benefiting, having a cost-benefit analysis as from the expenditures that from the revenue that we are foregoing. For instance, how are we benefiting socially? How how is that? How are those benefits being accrued to the citizens in terms of healthcare, social services?
Dixon Kateshumbwa, the Shema municipality legislator, says the Ministry of Finance needs to evaluate and assess whether government and the country benefit from the process.
As a country, we need to evaluate. Politically, we are under pressure to create jobs, to create employment. So you find government making decisions. Let's get manufacturers in, let's give them tax holidays, which is okay, it's debatable, but we should be able to evaluate over a period of time what have we benefited vis-a-vis what has been foregone.
Kateshumba says this strains the budget and calling for supplementary budgets to manage interests of loans to projects. He says the country has invested heavily in tax expenditure by giving tax holidays to fake investors, which exposes judgment and intention of Ministry of Finance officials as far as Uganda's strategic interests are concerned.
But what it is now, I think sometimes investors find their way in offices and then they get promises, sometimes exemptions that are irrational. That is something that we need to streamline as a country. Because some investors will end up lying, like we have seen, that they can do something when they are not. We have seen investors who get land and then mortgage it to get capital to invest. That is not an investor.
Activists say the government needs to come up with a tax expenditure governance framework and a fiscal committee with all stakeholders to streamline the tax expenditure.
Fiscal committee that comprises multi-stakeholders, including development partners, the National Planning Authority, Ministry of Finance, Uganda Revenue Authority, representatives from Parliament, among others, as well as civil society, to see to it that the tax expenditures that, or the revenue that we forego as a result of tax expenditures is actually holistically looked into.
The USAID representative, Kieran Holmes, says government needs to opt for a low corporate tax rate.
And a lower tax rate has a number of incentives, a number of advantages, I should say, over other incentives, in the sense that a lower tax rate means that tax is always paid, returns are always filed, and corporates, companies, or even sole traders get to keep more of their money, and that's available for reinvestment in which, of course, is productive and which is very likely to increase employment.
Adams Mayambala, CTV, PM Edition.
PM Edition returns shortly with more stories after the break.
CTV is now on StarTimes. You can now catch all your favorite programs, our daily comprehensive news bulletins, and so much more on StarTimes channel number 248. Stay tuned for a world of endless possibilities. CTV. Don't blink. The big debate is back. Bigger, bolder, reloaded. Whether it is securing your future, holding fast to the people power, or the promise of a one Uganda, one thing is certain: the big debate is on.
So why don't you respect the memories of voters on this? We have already addressed the issue of increment.
How many people have ever been convicted?
Okay.
The way the politics plays in cabinet.
So now why are they asking for the statement?
Follow mainstream conversations on current affairs and leading policy debates in Uganda.
It is in our interest to handle arrested people very nicely.
Right here on The Big Debate.
Let me finalize.
We have all gone to
I was
school.
quiet. I was quiet.
It's a hard-hitting talk show on development issues in the political and social-economic arena. Discussions that inform policy and trigger high-level dialogue. Now showing on CTV. Don't blink.
Sometimes in life, we spend all the time trying to live other people's life. And along the way, we lose who we are by copying what other people are doing in their relationship.
You see, from the last time I met your sister, I've not spent a day or a minute without thinking about her.
It's a good surprise on a Monday. This is nice.
So you and him are
We're just friends.
Wow.
Come on.
just friends.
You either tell me where you're from or you go back to where you've been. Thinking it would work out for us, but yet to find out that's not who we are after experiencing a great disappointment.
She's in love with some other man, so classy, a gentleman, not poor dogs like you.
These are the mistakes girls do.
Now showing on CTV. Don't blink.
Welcome back to CTV PM Edition with me, Melissa Mboha, and Isaac Duchamuzi on sign language. Moving on, government has ordered all those who fraudulently acquired Asian properties after their expulsion by then-President Idi Amin to return them. The announcement was made by the State Minister for Privatization and Investment, Evelyn Anite, who revealed that government has started investigating the falsely taken properties. Take a look.
In 1972, President Idi Amin's government expelled Asians, especially the Indians, who are living and working in Uganda. Many of the Asians who are living in haste left behind a number of properties, which included businesses, stock, and real estate. When President Yoweri Museveni took power, he immediately ordered for the return of Asian properties to their original owners, and the custodian board was also given the mandate of fast-tracking the recovery of the thousands of properties. Although the president made the call, many people have still refused to heed to the call 50 years down the road. According to the State Minister for Privatization and Investment, Evelyn Anite, government is carrying out investigations and will soon come after individuals who are illegally occupying Indian properties.
And really, this time, if there are Ugandans who are holding the properties of these departed Asians, between now and 28th, we want to call upon them to return because we don't want you to be the one to bring bad luck to our country.
The minister's remarks come at a time when government is going ahead with preparations for the Afro-Indian Investment Summit, which is intended to attract more Indians to invest in the country.
It is to promote Uganda's across to India market, a population of over 1.3 billion people, with a GDP of 2.6 trillion.